Welcome to the Spiritually Inspired Podcast. My name is Jason Barniski. I'm a spiritual teacher, yoga artist, and author. The purpose of this podcast is to be the match, igniting your spiritual fire. Enjoy the show. Hi everyone, thanks for joining into the podcast. Today I'm interviewing Vijay Krishna from the band the Kirtaniyas. He's the band leader of the California-based band, and the group is a global collective of very talented musicians, producers, and dancers. Vijay studied devotional Indian folk music, aka kirtan, in the sacred village of Vrindivan in India. And this rare traditional art form is an ancient call and response mantra chanting practice originating from over 5,000 years ago. The group has traveled to over 25 countries and infusing new life to these ancient chants with the youthful spirit and energy. So thank you, Vijay, for taking the time to come and talk with me this evening.
Yeah, Jason, nice to be here with you, and happy to be sharing a little bit about what we're up to, for the first time here, and hey.
Yeah, and I'm very excited. You're going to be in Encinitas tomorrow and get to see you kind of perform. Are you guys going to play music tomorrow at the event?
Yes, we are. We're going to be doing this, having this chant dance experience involving mantras and beats and grooves and acoustic instrumentation coming from India and exotic melodies and stories to tell and dance performance, and essentially kirtan is a congregational a yoga experience, one can say, in the sense that it creates connection with ourselves, it creates connection with the community, and most importantly with the creator and what the mystery of love that is behind everything, essentially God. So we'll be doing kirtan, and there'll be dance and there'll be smiles, and everyone's inspired of all ages. So, yeah.
Yeah, I'm sure there'll definitely be a lot of smiles and dancing. If anyone listening hasn't heard Vijay's music or the Kirtaniyas, I definitely encourage you to check them out. They're all over YouTube, and they can see them at your website. But I'm glad Vijay and I had been working at getting this podcast done for a long time, and I'm glad it took so long because I became more and more familiar with your music. And wow, your voice has a very unique healing quality, and it's just absolutely beautiful. It's funny because I play harmonium, and I was at a sound healing, and my mom was there, and I'd been listening to a lot of your music and just the way that you sing and directly from your heart. And my mom even told me, she said, "Wow, your voice sounds a lot better." And I attribute that to listening to your music and getting to a different place of clarity in me. But yeah.
Oh well, glad to be of service in that sense, and that's the wonderful thing actually about the kirtan phenomenon, especially for someone that's engaged in quote unquote leading or holding space for the kirtan experience. Actually, is in a service position. That's where the most fun is, because when we in a service position, as opposed to praise position, everyone should praise me and acknowledge me and my story, but rather the kirtan leader is working in service to just continue on the inspiration, and be part of the inspiration. So I'm happy to have been part of that for you, and nice to hear it from Mom especially.
Yeah, big time. And it's so great because I've seen a lot of your music, but the stuff I enjoy watching the most are your guys' live performances, and that's very rare. Like usually if you were to watch some pop artist or something, you'd want to hear the recorded thing. You wouldn't want to see their live performance recorded, but with you guys, oh my gosh, the energy, it's so amazing in the live performance.
Yeah, that's where the kirtan really is. I mean, to some extent, this kirtan experience can be captured in whatever dimensional form one can consider, say, the likes of a track, a recorded track on an album. But when one actually gets to partake in the experience itself, and then they contribute in with their voices and their smiles and joys and even sorrows, then it's much, much more of a substantial, tangible experience of unity and diversity, without actually, any it's non-denominational and all-inclusive, and only means good for everyone, for all of nature.
It's interesting to think, because there's a lot of like churches here in the West, and people kind of dread going to them. And I've been to some churches where it is a celebration, but kirtan is definitely a celebration, and just the energy and the atmosphere is, it's undescribable unless you've experienced it before.
Well, that's the thing. I mean, something like, a scene within one of my favorite movies of all time that I grew up with that being Blues Brothers, when I believe it's Elwood his brother picks him up, and he's it's like, hey, we got to take care of our home, we're on a mission from God, we got to put the band back together. And the brother just gets out of jail. He's thinking, I'm not into it. And then he goes into that church and he sees those people jumping around singing praise to the Most High in the church. They're singing, they're dancing for joy, and then he gets hit by that light, and he's like, wow, I could just see this, the power of music, the power of praise, and he has that epiphany. I mean, this is what it does. And then he takes part, he's jumping around like more crazy than anyone. So that's the share of inspiration that kirtan has to offer within,
That's a beautiful analogy. Thank you for sharing. So you said that kirtan is a form of yoga, and I'm familiar, but maybe not everyone listening is familiar with Bhakti yoga, and maybe you could describe a little bit what that is.
Yoga now is popularly known for the exercise where people end up doing asanas, as they call them, or different poses and postures to create alignment in the body and also the mind and the self, and it's very, very helpful, and it create much more of a healthy lifestyle. Just even the idea of investing, an hour and a half of your time and $20 or so to take care of yourself, it's a very admirable thing, I would say. And so yoga in its general sense would mean, yes, to kind of connecting with one's own mind, body, words, and so on. The deeper side of it is, how deep does it get? How deep does life get? How deep does the mystery of love get? And why is every living thing looking for that connection? So that's really yoga on the deep level, is the quest for that connected, the connection of the lover and the beloved, and the quest for full potential. So that is yoga. The yoga is coming to terms with, or coming to meet, or the pursuit of coming to full potential within ourselves in context with the world and all of creation, essentially. So this is the more philosophical side of yoga, and how that expresses itself practically, especially with the Bhakti yoga, which is the type of yoga form that really is the heart of all yoga, all connection. And Bhakti yoga is then it's essentially praise and a desire to serve the creator, the God, essentially. Known by many names. If there's a God, God must be omnipotent, and omnipotent would suggest unlimited qualities and unlimited qualities and unlimited names for each quality. So essentially there are unlimited names of the absolute, in the same way there's many names for the sun, but the sun is one with many names, different countries. So same thing.
Yeah, that's beautiful. That's quite beautiful. And yeah, for me, I think like bhakti or devotion is really like the easiest, the fastest path, because like really when I for my own life and my own personal spiritual practice, when I just get in that devotional place, it becomes easy to really accomplish some great miracles. And like out of devotion, it's not even me who's doing it. It's not even for me. And I end up becoming much greater than I ever thought I could.
Absolutely. That's the thing. Yoga, this quest, this mystery of yoga and connection. How deep does it go? We come to breakthroughs in our life, and we've just hit a milestone, and sometimes we've taken a few steps back, and sometimes more progress can come. But it's, in the long scheme of things, we're looking for that thing that gives us ultimate soul deep happiness. And when we move towards that deeper side of the environment, that deeper side of ourselves, then we tend to pursue it, or get into it and kind of work on it or work in service of it, and then it starts to reveal itself. And as the mystery reveals itself, we also become revealed to ourselves. So that's that selflessness that Bhakti Yoga has of giving one's whole heart, mind, body, words, and actions in service of the divine God. It actually offers one ultimate freedom. It's like saying slavery to the absolute is actually ultimate freedom. So that's Bhakti, the greatest, more abundance. Even if you want to be materially happy or spiritually happy, Bhakti Yoga essentially offers one and all. It gives proper taste, proper context for all that is. Essentially what's on the deeper side, bliss, love. And then what's on the external side, we know that anything in this material world comes to a perishing point. It has an expiration date. So time is also of the essence. And together with the community, when we get together in kirtan, like we'll be doing tomorrow, and it's a way for us to co-create an experience, a tangible experience of like, hey, this is really the pursuit of happiness. You know, it's not in any material pursuit, rather it's common. You know, I guess one has to just taste. You know, even George Harrison said in connection with this mantra chanting, he said that the taste in the cake is in the testing. So
I like what you said.
But that's the idea behind it. We can philosophize all.
Yeah, no, I like what you said about the pursuit of happiness. It's so funny, but the last 2 podcasts I did with just myself, it was called The Source of Happiness. And it was really a deep exploration in where happiness comes from. And what I ultimately realized is it's kind of like exactly what you said Bhakti Yoga is in serving others. And for me, I can really only speak for myself, but for me, true happiness is in living my purpose. And for me, my purpose is in serving others. And lately, like I just moved, and I moved to a place that is not as nice and lush and as enjoyable as San Diego, but I'm in so much more service that I've been so happy lately because I've been of so much service. And oh man, it's exactly what you're saying.
Absolutely, and this is the wonder of it. Essentially, the gift of what comes of giving oneself selflessly in a lovely way. It's almost like the action itself is its own reward. We were just discussing this with a friend. It's like that's how Bhakti is, and Krishna says, you may know, I've heard of Lord Krishna. He speaks very sweetly of those who love him most dearly, and he says, how can I ever repay those who have expressed love for me, and those who love me? Let their own good deeds and their own actions be the reward for their good heart, their sweet heart, and their motivation in seva, in selfless service and bhakti, essentially.
I love that. So how did you get involved in all this kirtan stuff? Like, tell me a little bit about, well, we spoke about it, but just for everyone listening, maybe where you grew up and how you got involved in kirtan and bhakti and all of it.
Yeah, well, about 3 or 4 years before I was born, my dad had been reading some literature on meditation, and sorry, excuse me 1 second. Come on, you guys, cold Tulsi right away. And he was reading some yoga stuff, transcendental meditation at the time, and came across some good results doing some yoga practice. And one day, a girlfriend of his at the time had a gift for him, and it was a book. And he guessed what the book was and had a pretty far out, experience in just knowing, expecting this wonderful gift that he felt in his heart would change his life. And sure enough, it did. About 2 or 3 years before I was born, he visited the Hare Krishna temple at the time. It was a very nice, big mansion house in England, central England. And and he started to get into the Krishna philosophy, the Vaishnava culture, and around the time, basically, from the time I was born, I was exposed to it more or less. My mother was also visiting the Krishna temple and enjoying The prasad especially is the offered food stuff that gets prepared and distributed freely to anyone who comes, and the kirtan especially, and the artwork, and it really is a culture. It's not just it's not a religion, and it's not just a philosophy. It's actually like a culture. It's a lifestyle. It's a lifestyle of engagement for those who are philosophically inclined. There's plenty there for them. For those who are more even sentimentally inclined and like to offer their own in natural way, it's also provided. Actually, Bhakti Yoga provides for everyone. It provides for every living thing. Again, if it lives, it loves, essentially. Some people might debate whether the likes of an animal or a tree has life, and if that life contains a soul within. And some say, well, if it has life, what is behind the energy behind that is a soul itself. And every soul, living entity, is essentially moving towards that ultimate source of all souls, in the same way all rivers are leading to the ocean, in the same way the sparks of a fire reach for the sun. So attraction, what we are attracted to, what we're attracted to. So life, our true self, will only be satisfied with something or connection to something that consists of the same quality, not a material thing. Even though we're souls, we may be in material bodies that change over time. Essentially what's on the deeper level is our trueness, and that never changes. The body may change, but who we are, and the deeper soul, our soul. I'm sure most people around the world, you say who, if you ask them to point to themselves, they generally point to their heart, and that's where the soul, the self proper, is said to be seated. So all of this becomes more and more clear, especially through service to the sweet divine. Again, God and all living entities both. And the bullseye really here is like to be very, also crystal clear in our ambitions to, be as most effective as possible. And it's like I've heard described by great saints that applying water to the roots of a tree will provide the whole tree nourishment. The tree will then provide leaves and fruits and shade and wood unconditionally. But if we apply water to any other part of the tree won't be nourished. So the idea with keeping the divine in God, in any way you want to call him or her or however, the idea is God in the center, and putting that love there through the community, through also service to the community, through good food and dance and celebration and having high quality discussions between us. Then this becomes a Sanskrit word called sangha, which means quality, essential community. So that's also what we're going to be up to tomorrow. Talking a little bits about this stuff that we're getting into more now. The implications of good quality community and celebration, like we'll be doing.
I'm just thinking as you're telling the story, and as you were talking about like the way that the plants serve others, and really the world is in homeostasis because everything is in a symbiotic relationship. So even the plants, when it's watered, it creates our carbon dioxide back into oxygen.
Yeah.
And as we exhale, we create carbon dioxide for the plant. And I'm just thinking of something like of being fully in service. And Yogananda, he said that God loves God. So to really find the divine in everything, and everything on the planet is divine and just loving itself.
Absolutely. In one sense, one can say, it may be said, the thing is, in one sense you could say it in a simple sense like that. You could say it in a simple sense, but then there's also like an acknowledgement of, 1 second please. There's also an acknowledgement of unity and diversity, which is basically, not just a homogenized identification of, yes, to some extent one can be seen as a godly creation, and in one sense, containing that same potential, having been created by it, essentially. But the difference being of the unlimited living entities, essentially being somewhat like the sparks of the fire, having that same potential as the source, but being finite. And the infinite and then the finite being one and the same essentially in quality, but then many in variety, is almost like a glorious variety. You see, there's the upside of the dual and the downside of the dual. Our upside is essentially that, it takes two to tango and two to dance and share some. Are you still there?
Yeah, I'm here. I'm just taking it all in. That's just a beautiful analogy.
So and that's the other side. So that's why you have the idea of the goddess and the god essentially in some of these cultures, and an acknowledgement of the feminine is there, and it's say a base of people, like its glory can be, imagine a room full of all of the same people versus a room full of a wide variety of people that could all learn something from each other. There's a glory to that that's higher than a room of all the same person, if you know what I mean. So there's a glorious side to diversity, and so the unity and the diversity is acknowledging that essentially qualitatively the divinity, the all-pervasive divinity, infinity, consists of the same in its true sense, but apart from the this unlimited expressions of it and its creation essentially. So it's unlimited. It's a very fine point on the dual versus the non-dual school and whatever else these deeper philosophies have to offer. So just to include what you said, but also to acknowledge that the diversity is also a very wondrous thing, as again you'll see tomorrow in a very practical way, when you may find yourself spinning around, dancing and singing these mantras, and enjoying the fact that hey, there's a whole bunch of other people here that are being touched by this this experience and co-created experience. So just to add that too.
Yeah, that's beautiful. And I'm just thinking about community and sangha and all the different people and all the different colors and all the different aspects and the qualities are what make that one sangha such a beautiful one. So again, even in the sangha itself, there's one sangha, but there's a million different sparks of beautiful light in that sangha.
Exactly, with different colors and different ornamentations and different all sorts of different variety of glories, and that's part of the glory of the whole, the fact that it consists of also unlimited variations and individuality too. There's a glory to individuality. We can also hold tight with that. This is real sweet pride in Bhakti Yoga is, as you said, is in service, and only one who is in service like that can actually understand tangibly that, oh yes, giving my life in service is actually the high way, the higher path in one sense. One can say, even if it leaves us sometimes materially destitute, but no, we will hold strong and not compromise our hearts and engage ourselves in that way, knowing it to be the way of fulfillment. So
you're speaking directly. Yeah, you're speaking directly to my soul. Something I'm thinking, like, as a yoga teacher, I always thank my students for coming because they give me purpose. Like, without them, I would have no purpose. So I'm so grateful for them. And then they're grateful too for learning in the same way. And as for you, like, as leading the kirtan, it's the same way. I'm sure.
Bhagavad, thanks, man. Absolutely all. I mean, I even heard from my great grandfather teacher, who was just such an amazing orator, knew the as far as I'm concerned, the deepest secrets, and would reveal them, and always give appreciation to his audience, consisting of even his followers and disciples, saying, hey, if it weren't for you all, I consider all of you to be like my teacher also, because you inspire me to speak on these things that fulfill me. So I am your servant. So even this guru was speaking to his followers and disciples in this way with absolute genuine humility, giving them all thanks for inspiring him in what he's supposed to do,
Oh, I love it. Yeah, no, I get it.
Truly paying it forward,
Yeah, and the students really, for a teacher, the students really, like you said, encourage them to dive deeper in their own heart. It's just so beautiful. Absolutely. Yeah, I can't wait to meet you tomorrow. That's gonna be wonderful. We'll be able to dive deeper. But yeah, I love to chant and I love to sing. And living in Encinitas, I was about a block away from the Self-Realization Fellowship. So I started going, and then the first songs on the harmonium that I ever learned were like Yogananda's songs and all of the cosmic chants. Are you familiar with those at all?
I may have come across them here and there, but I don't know them.
Yeah, wonderful. I might have to bring a little book of them for you and show you, because here's a great question. A lot of the kirtan chanters now, it's all in Sanskrit, and that's something that really attracted me about Yogananda's stuff. It was all in English, but wow, there's a certain power and an energy, even if you don't know what the words mean, to Sanskrit, because it's such a special language. Maybe you could speak on that.
Yeah, actually, I was just sharing yesterday at Lucidity Festival the powers of Sanskrit. In a simple way, we can say, imagine that there's we know about computer programming, and we program digits into the computer, and it ends up working better, and so on and so forth. Imagine a spoken language and a written language designed to essentially make nature respond. So imagine a word that was programmed, that once spoken, especially with clear intention on its meaning, nature itself, in other words, like the environment, both the internal means our internal environment, our mind, our brains, our psyche, our consciousness, and then also the external environment. That means our surroundings, a room, a house, or any vicinity. So Sanskrit, this old sophisticated language that's also still going on in India now, it's put together in such a way that even what I would be saying right now in Sanskrit would sound like a poetry. It's so sophisticated and sweet sounding, and very, very high level. And when these mantras, man means mine, and tra means to set free, also to protect. And then Sanskrit mantras, when we sing them, and these other divine names, these names that are absolutely loaded one syllable words, sometimes that actually have a world, a universe of potential within them. It can be that simple, just by saying something like Jai Ram. Actually, with full heartfelt intention, one can see the power, the true powers of attraction and more. It's simply as simple as that. And when we sing these mantras, or these power words that have unlimited mystery within them, when we sing them together with a nice beat and a nice melody, and with some good intention, hearts, smiles on our faces and happy hearts, then even not, if we just come and subject ourselves to co-creating that environment and really putting ourselves in it, then it becomes effective, very, very effective for anyone who's within sound reach of that place, and even beyond. Like, sound carries, echoes throughout the universe. So when we jump up and down and sing our hearts up together, like we'll be doing tomorrow again, that vibration, or those moods, or that feeling, emanates beyond the walls of the place itself. It goes out, and you'll find it will affect. It can even affect the likes of the whole town, or even beyond that. Actually, sometimes, we don't really know what's in people's heart. It's a great mystery, but someone can be, touched to such a degree from the kind of essential gathering that Bhakti Yoga provides, that they can go out and, really, really change the world in amazing ways through the what this culture has to offer, and what it has to show, and what it has to give in an open source way to one and all. Remember, it's a culture, it's not a religion or a cult or anything like this. It's a way of life. So anyone incorporating and adapting these Bhakti Yoga habits can very quickly see the results and see the true powers of attraction more than any other method.
How can, if people want to start their own chanting practice at home, or they want to start doing bhakti yoga on their own, what do you recommend that they do?
I say one nice thing is to even playing kirtan and mantras in the house, and keeping a sacred space in the house is really, really important. I would say having maybe a shelf just kept as a place where you might keep your picture of, if you're a Christian, you might keep your picture of Jesus. If you're Buddhist, you might keep your Buddha. If you're a devotee of Lord Krishna, you'll keep Krishna, and maybe some nice flowers, and a place where you pray, and sometimes just open your heart, a place where you have your private time with the divine, or your creator, your connection, your yoga. So you make that your sacred place, and even going to the extent of, whenever you prepare a very nice meal, especially when it's, violent-free meal, if it's prepared with love. And remember, when we're putting food together, it's like creating art, it's like creativity. So our creativity, our mind, essentially is going into our food. So we prepare food consciously and heartfully and nicely, and then, on a nice reserved little plate that we take to our altar, we take that food and we put it on that altar, and we request that our sweet Lord and Guruji's, or our teachers, or our inspiration, they can taste and relish this meal before we do, and then we can go on and eat and enjoy that meal ourselves. So this is a very, very powerful practice, and this is, in India they call the food received from offering to God as prasad, which literally means edible mercy, or edible compassion and love from the divine themselves. So that's a really nice thing to do, and keeping good quality conversation and good quality words. A man is as he speaks. So also in the environment of the house, trying to really have some progressive talk, and maybe not listen to so much nonsense. I'm telling myself here,
Yeah, and it's all a practice for all of us. I mean, for me, I remember when I first really started getting into the yoga culture, the yoga lifestyle, I realized that when I listened to certain less savory music, you could say, it just changed my whole disposition in life. And so at one point I just said, you know what, I'm only going to listen to like kirtan music, and I'm only going to listen to music that's very high vibration and that's going to keep me mentally focused in the right direction. And I experienced a dramatic shift within a couple weeks by just only listening to devotional music.
Absolutely. There you go. It's a tangible effect, right off. Very, very quickly you can tell, especially when you apply yourselves in practical service again to, seva, and then listening to kirtans, and then listening to Bhakti yoga elders share their wisdom, and Bhagavad Gita is an essential book for anyone in pursuit of whatever form of God they may acknowledge. I mean, I even challenge any agnostics and any atheists. I challenge them to have an objective look at what's on offer within the Bhagavad Gita.
Oh man, and that's a perfect segue for a question that I've been kind of itching at. I'm a big a Hanuman devotee, and I know you're a Krishna devotee, and I love to tell stories of Hanuman all the time. I would love to hear a story. It could be a favorite story or a quote, but I'd love to hear just something about Krishna that maybe first comes to your mind, or something that you'd like to share with the world.
So, a little story about Krishna, huh?
Yeah, I would love that. Yeah.
Let's see, a story about Krishna. Let's see. I can tell you a short story about Hanuman, being that he's your favorite.
I'd really like that. That's even better. Yeah.
And then we might come to a story for Krishna too. But one of the stories that I told for many years on our travels around the world in different countries was one of my favorite stories of Hanuman. And the values of selfless service or self-full service, one can also say, or seva. Was one time this Hanuman, the great monkey, half god, half human, the great servant of Lord Ram, the absolute divine embodied with his divine Sita. Ram was in battle, and his brother Lakshman was taken down by an arrow. At once Ram called out for his best friend, the magic mystic monkey, Hanuman, and he said, Hanuman, you must at once rush to the Himalayas, and there in those mountain range, there are magic, heavenly herbs that you must bring right away, for the life of Lakshman is in great danger. So Hanuman quickly leaped through the sky and headed for the Himalayas, the great mountain range. And once he got there, he actually had forgotten what herb, celestial herb, was there to be picked for the saving of Lakshman. So Hanuman lifted the whole mountain, and then he starts flying through the sky. And as he is flying through the sky, considering the nature of the opportunity that it had to serve, Hanuman had been given an opportunity to give himself to serve, instead of his head blowing up and him becoming very proud of, I've done a very great thing, I am worthy of praise, I am going to get so everyone will think I am a very great person. Rather, Hanuman started to grow his whole body started to grow in love, in appreciation and gratitude for the fact that he's had the opportunity to do service. So his heart was growing, and he also started to grow. So there we had a giant flying monkey carrying a mountain through the sky. That's one of the stories of Hanuman that I love very much.
I love that. Yeah, and the studio, my teacher, the studio where I practice, that's the symbol for our studio, is this monkey flying, carrying a whole mountain. Yeah. And that's exactly, I think, kind of what I alluded to at the beginning, maybe unconsciously, was that, when we're devoted, we can do anything, even move mountains.
Indeed, absolutely.
It's funny,
anything is possible.
Yeah, and as you were speaking, a story of Krishna that I like very much kind of popped into my head. I'll share if you don't mind, but it's difficult to tell without telling the whole background of the Gita. But it was just in the very beginning, there was a war, and 2 of the 5 brothers, Arjuna was the youngest brother, and Krishna was laying down, he was asleep, and he went to the feet of Krishna. And his older brother went up to Krishna's head, and he shook him on the shoulders, and he said, "Wake up, Krishna, wake up." And they both were going to ask for his help. And when Krishna woke up, he looked towards his feet, and he immediately asked Arjuna and told Arjuna, I'm going to give you the option, whether you want to have me as a charioteer or you want to have my whole army. And he gave Arjuna the option because Arjuna came very humbly to God. He came to his feet directly, as opposed to just going and shaking him on the shoulder and demanding what we want. So to really come humbly to God as a servant, so that's kind of what popped into my head. And again, both of our...
So I just want to add to that Krishna was very clear with Arjuna that he himself would not lift any weapons, that he would only drive the chariot, that if you could take him, and then the other, actually it was his cousin, Duryodhan. It was his cousin that requested Krishna's army, his whole army. Krishna said, "You can take my whole army, or you can take me." Yes, and then there you had the result. So please continue as you are.
Yeah, no, I love that story so much, and it's funny because in our own speech, in the way that we speak, is kind of embodying these teachings, talking about service and talking about devotion and the things we could accomplish. So it's beautiful to see how, as we're sharing these stories, the principles behind that show up in our own life through service and devotion. So I really honor you for that. It was beautiful. It was beautiful.
Thank you, Jason. It's a pleasure to share some of this stuff, and I'm looking forward to meeting you personally tomorrow. And I want to extend the welcome to everybody. Come and check it out, and bring your friends and family, and yeah, looking forward to seeing you.
So where, for everyone listening, where can they go to maybe find out more about the event? Where's the event going to be? The time? Give me some of the details.
Yeah, it's going to be Eve Encinitas at 7:30, and yeah, you can expect a nice venue. It's actually our first time, but we've had some nice reviews about the place, and we're coming down with a nice crew. We're going to have some of our friends join us too, and from 7:30 onwards, and you can expect to hear call and response mantra chanting with acoustic traditional instruments that have been around for hundreds of years and plus, and then also we're going to be doing some of our fusion hybrid mix where we'll be playing some things like hip hop and reggae with mantras too. So you can expect to get a whole variety of genres, and yeah, it's all around the mantra, it's all around the name, and in praise and in service, and yeah, come and co-create.
Wonderful. Yeah, so, and Eve is great. It's like a vegan restaurant and kombucha bar with a great space in the back. You're going to absolutely love it. Yeah, it's wonderful. It's a wonderful place.
Great.
Yeah, and if anybody else wants to find out about it, I'll put the link at the bottom of this podcast. Before we end, I just want to thank Kennedy Carr for introducing us and putting us together.
Hey, shout out Kennedy.
Yeah, and he has an event coming up June 21st through 25th in Baja, Mexico. It's called the Genius Loki Fest. You can find out more about that online. But yeah, thanks, Kennedy. And yeah, so the final question I almost forgot before we ended, the most important question of the whole thing, spiritually inspired, is what do you do? Because we all go through ups and downs. What do you do when times get tough to stay inspired to keep doing your work?
I always refer back to what the opportunities that I've been given and what I've been essentially guided by my teacher, who, because he'd reached such a potential, would look at me and see potential in me and share encouragement and grace and enthusiasm, and would let me know that I could do it, and so I refer back to that, and I meditate on him. I meditate on the gifts in mantra form that he's given me, and I try and, the best I can, actualize that in whatever practical actions I'm doing, whether I'm shopping or otherwise. How is it tied into the big picture of what we and I am supposed to be doing to reach my own individual potential and happiness, and fulfill my own pursuit of happiness. And that's if that answers your question. I mean,
yeah, thank you. Thank you so much for sharing and for being such a shining example. I know for me it was really scary to just embrace purpose, because like the normal mindset would say, no, you can never make it. You can never support yourself just living your purpose alone. And for me, really, it was stepping into full-on abundance. But yeah, it takes so much guts.
Indeed. Yes, well, we must do or die, and we must die to live. This is the words of Lord Jesus himself, and dying to live means, any of those things, any of those doubts, any of those things that are distracting us from our pursuit, that must die. And if any misconception on who we are and our place in the world, on who God is, any of those things, all misconceptions must die, so that we can live in happiness, live in freedom, and live in joy. And that comes from applying ourselves to it in service.
Yeah, and it's really funny, but something I've just been playing around with in my own mind is I believe it's at the end of the Gita, and Krishna says, like, the means must justify the ends. So whatever we attain in our life, like, it must be through a just means.
Yeah, I mean, one can say that also, but one can also conclude that Krishna's end message in the Bhagavad Gita is of two types, actually. My close bandmate were discussing this last night, just as she turned 29. Shout out to Rasika Dasi, you'll hear her sing tomorrow. Basically that one of the most distinct verses in the end of the Bhagavad Gita is Sarva dharman parijjaja mamikam sharanam braja aham tam sarva papebhyo mokishami masuchaha. So this is when Krishna is saying this beautiful poem sounding sentence or paragraph, that Krishna is saying that Sarva dharman parityajya. Any duty, any duty of positive or negative kind may be surrendered completely. Exclusively surrender yourself in service of me. In other words, the divine. In other words, God Himself. Mam ekam sharanam braja aham tam sarva papibhyo mukhe shami masucha. That I'll provide absolutely all abundance, all means for them to attain that, and or any unwanted things in their way will be taken care of, essentially. So this is an exclusive show of devotion to the extent of any relationship to this world. It may perish, it will perish, but what the relationship that doesn't perish is that connection and our long lasting, search for it. So Krishna is very clear here, saying, hey, exclusively surrender yourself to the sweet will of Himself, and meaning the divine. And then this is actually, after having said so many things in the Bhagavad Gita, He suggests this. And then He gives another verse, Man manabhav mad bhaktu madhyaji mam namaskuru mam evashashi satyam te pratijani priyosine. He says that those sweethearts, those people of real happiness engaged their mana bhav, engage their minds, engage their emotions, in essentially falling in love with the divine, or adoring, showing love to, or appreciating, that source, that sweet source. And sometimes life is just tough and we lose hope. Sometimes we're high and we give thanks, but when it comes to material affairs, we can be high or low from one day to the next. But what's going on? What can happen on the deeper side with the pursuit of bhakti and exclusive surrendering of our mind, our hearts, and our emotions to the sweet will of the divine through the agency of real, bhakti yogi elders, people that can give us direct pointers, not thinking that we can go independently and understand the deep message of the likes of Krishna's Bhagavad Gita. We must also go through the agent to understand, well, what is, how does this manifest practically? So, Krishna ends by saying, just engage all your mood, your ideas in serving, in this way, and all will be taken care of, It's a promise.
That's beautiful. I feel closer to Krishna just listening to you. That was beautiful. It was so beautiful. So thank you so much for your time, Vijay. I'm really excited to get to meet you tomorrow and get to do kirtan with you tomorrow. It's going to be wonderful.
Awesome. Thank you, Jason.
Mm-hmm.